Welcome to the No Budget Filmmaking Podcast, a podcast about the art of making films, no matter how small the budget. And now, here are your hosts, Alex Dark and Trevor L. Nelson.
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us. This is episode 59 of the No Budget Filmmaking Podcast. I'm Alex Dark.
And I am Trevor L. Nelson, and today we're going to talk about how to brand yourself as a filmmaker. But first, as always, what are we drinking? Alex, what are you drinking?
Oh, yeah. I am drinking in my specially crafted beer bottle koozie.
Oh.
That's made specifically for beer bottles.
Yeah. So you just stapled the sides of the Hive can koozie to make it a little bit thinner.
Yeah. Well, it turns out that bottles fit in any regular koozie. This is
a little extra room.
a blue moon. A blue moon.
Oh, excellent. I got
Harvest
excited
wheat.
because you said, harvest wheat. I got excited because you said you were in a special container. So I went and got my growlers filled from Golden Road. So I have my special container, my Kielbasa Festival.
Yes.
From a Polish deli in Minneapolis, and I filled it with Golden Road's Wolf Pup Session IPA. So
Ooh, IPA. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. So I apologize if you hear this a lot in the podcast. That's me closing the metal lid on my my Stein.
Yeah.
But
podcast approved.
I was a little worried because we usually do this podcast later in the afternoon. Today we're doing it a little earlier, which means I rarely eat breakfast, and so by the time we do our podcast, normally I've had lunch.
So you're worried that you're going to
this-
be under the table by the end of this.
Well, a nice little, I'm probably got about 2 or 3 beers in this Stein at 4.5 ABV. Now, not the worst in the world. I've done much worse to myself, but I haven't had to, keep a conversation going. So if you hear snoring at some point, maybe it's because I haven't eaten anything all day and I'm drinking a bunch of beer early in the morning and I just passed out.
That's true.
Also,
well, you have nothing to worry about because this is actually a bottle that I pulled out of the trash and filled with whiskey.
Oh my God, that would be the greatest thing in the whole wide world if that was true. Fantastic. I love your thinking. So what's new? Again, not much in the time of quarantine. It's almost baby time for Alex.
Yeah.
Coming up we're thinking within the week.
Within the week? Definitely.
Excellent.
Definitely going to schedule an inducement if this baby is clawing onto the uteri for much longer.
So your wife has 2 uteruses, uteri. Just holding on to that placenta for dear life, just making sure it stays attached to the wall.
Exactly.
Okay.
So
we'll
welcome,
see. My friend, to the oncoming parenthood. It's a trip. That's why I drink so much and why I really, really hope I get drunk from 4 or 5, IPAs before eating anything all day.
Excellent. I'm glad I can contribute to your excellent fatherhood skills.
Thank you. Yes. You know what? Budweiser has called me the father of the year. So I'll take that to the bank.
Yeah. Nice.
So I got a question for you, and this could turn into the question of the day, but I got a hypothetical for you. And I want to see what you think about this.
A hypothetical. Great.
Yeah. So you used to live the last 2 places you've lived have been right now you're in a standalone little house. Before that you were in like a very small 3-unit apartment complex behind a house. But before that you lived in a large compound.
Yeah. A complex, some might say.
A complex area. Complex.
The 2 times before that I lived in.
Yeah. That's true. So this is before Bree, when you lived at Promenade Towers.
Okay.
You were known, and we have made much fun of it, of your garbage whiskey and how you'd pull things that people had left to throw down the chute, and it was still usable, so you'd use it.
Yeah, sure.
All right.
Okay,
so
well, first of all, let's be fair. Garbage whiskey, I didn't drink it. I took 1 sip and gave it to your wife.
That's true. That'll give people an idea of my wife. She's like, wait, whiskey that was sitting by the garbage? Absolutely. Bring it over here. And it tasted horrible, and yet we found out it was like an actual high-end whiskey.
Yes, very high-end. Okay.
But in that vein, you probably weren't there in the time of Postmates and Uber Eats and all that.
No.
But if you woke up one morning and somebody had left an obvious wrong delivery, i.e. like they left something like let's just say Jack in the Box order in front of your door with somebody else's name on it. The bag was sealed.
Yeah.
And obviously it was for someone else.
Okay.
Say you tried to figure out who it was, couldn't find it out. Would you eat said contents of the Jack in the Box bag, or would you not?
Would I eat it as opposed to throw it away?
Yes.
Of course I would eat it.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you.
I
now,
mean,
again,
it's like,
this is just a hypothetical, but hypothetically, I did that this morning.
It's like if you can't find the person, right?
Yeah.
Like it's probably the next thing that would happen is you would throw it away. So I would either eat it if I was hungry, or give it, like, walk outside your door 2 steps to the nearest homeless person and give it to them.
Yeah, well, I'm not that nice of a person. So, you know what? I guess I could change it. I shouldn't be too worried. I did eat this morning, and it hypothetically was Jack in the Box that somebody had delivered to my door that was not for me.
Wow.
So I should be fine. Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, I did eat that this morning. But the look my wife gave me was like, that's probably poison. Someone's trying to kill us. Now, I don't have that many enemies. I don't have that many friends. So
she should be commending you for throwing yourself on that sword, because she could have accidentally eaten it and it may have been poisonous. But you
it's like
sacrificed yourself and your own safety to protect her.
True love right there. Or the if I didn't eat it, the poison could have seeped through the bag into our apartment and thus killed us all. Right. It's like the guy who eats drinks the drink and eats the food before the king to see if there's poison in there.
That's right.
I'm a savior. But I mean, it was a nice little. It was hypothetically, it was a very nice little grab bag. Look at that. I was very happy. I like that things. I have it in my fridge. Nowadays,
people are delivering things like Jack in the Box, like something I would never even consider about, like getting delivered.
Because you can literally never get out of your car and go get Jack in the Box. Like you go into your car, you drive, you come back home, you never have left your car, and you've got Jack in the Box.
Yeah. Like, and then I haven't. I mean, anyway, that's crazy. But yeah, totally. That seems like a normal thing to do.
I would not say I'm a rich man in any way, nor if I ever became a rich man, would I ever feel that I should pay like a $5 delivery charge on a $5.99 breakfast combo from Jack in the Box. I don't get it. Like, I guess that's just some people. That's their jam. So
yeah, right in the middle of something, can't leave. I get it.
Yeah, but except I woke up at 8, and it was out in the front of my door.
Well, that's another mystery. Did it come last night? And you had no clue. Jack in the Box serves breakfast all day.
That's true, and there were some jalapeno poppers in there and some cake. So it's like, but it was too. Who
in their right mind orders cake from Jack in the Box? Must have been a birthday.
Must have been.
Oh man, you ruined someone's birthday. I changed my answer.
Sorry, Cody. Yeah, no, it was jalapeno poppers, 2 breakfast sandwiches, and a cake.
Wow.
So
bizarre.
Hats off. All right. Well, hypothetically, it was that. Hypothetically.
Yeah.
Hypothetical question. Now, if you want to move on to a question of the day where we both get asked a question, that's fine. But if you feel that we have really hit the nail on the head with mysterious Jack in the Box, hypothetical.
We have, at the risk of everyone hating this episode, I'm going to do it anyway. But we're going to do a different one.
Funbot's the only one who's going to hate it.
It's not going to be as open-ended, so maybe it'll take less time. It's going to be would you rather question.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Here we go.
I'm ready. All right, nail it.
Would you rather spend a year living at a nudist colony or within an Amish community?
I think, the question's flawed because I feel like it should rather be, does a nudist colony want me living with them for a year?
Yeah.
And see this disaster of a body? Or would the Amish like me there because I would just sneak my cell phone in? I would probably say, I got to go Amish. And there's only one reason I would do Amish over the nudist colony, and that's because I am ugly naked. No, other than that, I feel like without technology, I would probably like, get like, I'd be like, hey guys, I'm going to sit out butter churning this time. I'm going to go write a script. Or
interesting.
Oh, hey guys, you know what? This barn looks like you guys got this barn raising yourselves. I'm going to go, write a script or start outlining a book or something like that. I feel like I would welcome the release from technology. Have you seen on Facebook all these things like $1 million if you live on this this island with a castle, but no, TV, no cell phone, blah, blah, blah for 5 months. I'm like, what? Really? Like, okay.
I'd do that now.
I'm not allowed to bring my wife and kids. Can we do it 50 months, please?
Jackpot.
Yeah. So that's why I would do Amish community. Only because I feel like, also because if I was in the nudist colony and I had my cell phone because I was allowed to, where would I put it? Like I'd have no pockets.
That's true.
I put it in one of the rolls of my belly and then like.
You'd have to get one of those cases that has like those micro suctions on it and you could just suction it to like the side of your leg.
All right, Alex, same question.
I think if I had to choose, I would be looking at it more as like an investigative journalist.
From your history of investigative journalism. Yes. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And so I would obviously choose the Amish country so that I could find out once and for all the secret to their fireplace, their fireless fireplaces.
Wow. Because obviously they can't have
they can't use technology
in those fires.
So
and
how
they can't
does
have
it work?
Electricity in those.
Yeah.
So black magic?
Maybe. I guess we'll find out in my next article.
Yeah. For Medium.
My expose. Fireless fireplaces. Uncovered.
Fact or fiction.
Yeah. It's going to be the next dopest Netflix documentary.
God, it probably would be. Netflix just wants all the content. Which, by the way, I don't know if you've seen, Bert has a special on Netflix called The Cabin.
I did see.
Excellent.
I did see. I haven't seen it, but I saw it.
Me either.
It's one of those where if I find it interesting, but to me it borders a reality TV realm that I don't like. Like,
true.
Like having a bunch
forced
of people
forced
into activities. Like it seems very much like a Big Brother-y style format that I don't know. I would much rather just like follow them around like doing normal stuff that wasn't like so sort of like pre-planned and obviously like meant to be shenanigans,
Yeah. I mean, I like everyone who seems to be appearing, so I'll give it a shot. But I'm with you on that. I feel like there was a clip of Bert getting like they're going like harvesting honey, and then like a bee gets into Bert's like suit and stings him, and I'm like, I don't know if that really happened or he was just doing that to get laughs. Who knows? But I'll check it out. Yeah. So now that we've wasted everyone's time, the topic at hand. So a while ago, we talked about building a broad audience, which kind of like branding your movie and getting an audience base for a specific movie. But then Alex brought up the question, what about branding yourself as a filmmaker? If you think about like, love him or hate him, people like Michael Bay, he has a kind of brand of movies, which is why Pain and Gain was kind of a nice departure for him. It wasn't as much explosion-ese and all that. Mm-hmm. But Fincher has a brand. Spielberg has a brand. And so how do you go about when you're an independent filmmaker and kind of starting out, or you've done a bunch of things, but you kind of want to brand yourself so you're more well known? How does one go about doing that? So that's what we're going to talk about.
Yes, exactly.
And I think it starts off with you got to figure out what kind of filmmaker you want to be. I think of in terms of like your style, your the way you work, and also your genre, if you want one, that you want to work in. Because I think branding comes down to attracting an audience, and that's easiest to do when you have a genre, and you can find those people a lot easier if you have a genre that you want to stick to, because you can find people that are fans of that specific genre.
Yeah, I also think it has to do with figuring out what kinds of stories you want to tell, because I think a lot of times people want to tell, one of the reasons they want to make movies is to tell specific stories, and a lot of times they kind of share themes and they share ideas, and then also talking about how you tell the story comes down to, again, your style, not only like visually, but as a writer or as a director, and all of that can sort of lend itself to this idea of you as a filmmaker having a brand. That's a little bit more sort of, I don't know, over time you develop a brand that way.
Yeah.
So I'd be curious to hear your thoughts about developing a brand when you don't have a body of work that essentially speaks for itself as being your brand. You know what I'm saying?
I think I get what you're saying. I think it comes down to kind of like we did for building an audience for a broad movie, a broad, action movie or a comedy or something like that. I think if you embed yourself in the community of the kind of brand you want, if you want stories to tell, documentaries, there's a lot of stuff out there of people who love documentaries. I think if you don't have a body of work to show, become a student, watch a lot of the movies and join in on discussions on the movies that you like and that you want to recreate. If you want to brand yourself as a horror director or horror filmmaker, watch a lot of horror movies and then go onto horror message boards and be like, and just talk to people. And it's kind of the same idea. We talked a while ago about how those guys were doing I think it was the Appalachian Trail documentary. And so they jumped on like trail, hiking message boards and all that, and just got to know the community. And then by the time that their documentary came out, they already had this base of fans. And I think it's the same idea, is that if you want to build your brand without having a big body of work or any body of work, ingrain yourself in the community that you want to be branded in, because that'll help you kind of like be known without having anything to show to be known for.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think that comes down to kind of like an important part, which I think is when you're developing your brand, it's hard to sort of force it. It should be you. And so you shouldn't try to necessarily like fabricate a brand, but what you should do is sort of explore what it is about yourself that already exists, that you want to sort of highlight. And so in theory, you wouldn't mind going onto these communities and sort of like becoming more involved in them because you're already very interested and part of that community maybe already.
Don't force it. Like your brand should be because it's what you like. So like it shouldn't be like, kind of like what we do when we talk about, what I was talking about, like, doing movies that are just for the paycheck and stuff like that. It also, it shouldn't be like something where it's like you're doing a brand because you think that's a popular brand right now. Like, oh, well, Fincher got movies made like this, so I'm going to do it like this. You know what I mean? Like, it should be easy to create your brand because it's what you like. Like, you like horror movies. We like horror movies. So our brand of horror, like, filmmakers, wouldn't be that like big of a stretch because we like engaging in horror movies or sci-fi. It should be pretty easy because, again, you like you said, it's something you like. So it's not like a chore to go onto these message boards and talk to people because you like horror movies or you like, documentaries.
And I also think that boiling down the concept of a brand, really all it is sort of dialing in what you put out there as like a public, for a public view, Yeah. So like, and pushing certain factors forward. So if you want to brand yourself as like the guy who writes the funniest comedies around or whatever, it's not,
you better have some good fucking comedies.
Well, yeah, you should be able to deliver on whatever promises you put out there. But at the same time, it's about sort of taking these ideas and bringing them to the forefront of people's minds when you come up in conversation or when they search for you online or whatever. So it's kind of like stacking a deck in your favor, where with all these different elements that align to equal that message. So in my mind, it would be including things like your online presence, if you have social media accounts or a website, like all those things should all reflect this brand that you want to put forward, and whatever it is that you want to represent. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to choose something and stick with it forever. I think you can change over time, and you probably should, because, everyone's taste changes, or they have like new discoveries and they become better at certain things, and everything kind of shifts. But like having a brand at any particular time could be as simple as having your web presence, your social media accounts, anything that anyone could look up about you online reflect whatever it is, the message that you want to like convey about yourself as a filmmaker.
Yeah, and when you say things like it shouldn't, it doesn't need to stay the same over time, I feel like I think of like Steven Spielberg, who was his brand was kind of like these blockbusters, summer blockbusters was Steven Spielberg, and then he did Schindler's List, and that was off brand for him, and so much so that I don't think he took a director's fee because he believed in it so much, so it was off brand for him, and it didn't hurt him. It showed that he was a great director. He's gone on to do more, Schindler's List type movies like Munich and stuff like that, but he still has this idea of being this summer blockbuster director who did things like, Ready Player One and stuff like that. But he deviated from his brand it took a long time after he had developed and sustained his brand for a long time, because Hollywood doesn't like to take chances. That's why there's so many reboots and remakes, and they want to know that if they got a horror movie they want to direct, they're going to go for the guy who does a lot of horror movies, because that's their brand and they know that person can handle it. And that's why it's so hard to get people to move away from their brand, because it's playing it safe, and moving away from your brand is a risk. But you can do it. So this isn't something that's set in stone, but if you're starting out, know what kind of movies you want to do. Like I said, me and Alex love horror movies. We love sci-fi movies. Most of the stuff we're writing is horror or sci-fi or a mix of both. And then if you look at our list of ideas, I have a drama in there about World War One. So it's like, that probably won't get made. And then I have an idea about my great grandfather who was a bootlegger, not horror, not sci-fi. And those will probably not easily get made if we are in the horror genre and pushing to be horror, but eventually we'll have enough, hopefully, clout that we can get those made that are off brand for us.
Yeah, I also think that it doesn't necessarily have to boil down to genres either. Like one could say that, Spielberg hit a lot of genres. I mean, he did Poltergeist, right? He did like E.T., which I guess is like a sci-fi-ish family. He did Close Encounters. He did Jaws. But then, like you said, he's also done dramas and stuff. But I think what the thing about Spielberg, because he's had such like a big body of work, you understand what a Spielberg vibe is. Like you can almost kind of, despite like regardless of the genre, you can tell like different Spielberg like themes and tones. Like he has a lot of like family themes in his movies, and his style as a director, like the shots that he chooses and camera movements that he puts in and things like that. It's a style that is very much like Spielberg, even though he does like go through different genres at the same time. So like Trevor and I, like we do like sci-fi horror, but one could also say that, maybe what we actually want to be our brand might be like building like suspense and mystery, and how we are able to sort of like build tension, and how we do that as filmmakers. That could also be our brand, even though we do so within kind of like the same similar genres.
Yeah.
And
I think if you look at like, I I think that goes back to this idea of an auteur is that they have brands. Like you got Hitchcock, you got Kubrick. These are like styles. Like Kubrick did war movies, sci-fi movies, twisted kind of horror, I guess you could say Eyes Wide Shut is. But they all had you did period pieces with Barry Lyndon, but they all have the style and the brand of Kubrick. Like, that's a Kubrick movie just based on its contents, its style, and its delivery.
Totally. So I think for a filmmaker who wants to just start building a brand for themselves, I do think that there's certain things that are important. One of them is definitely consistency, because I think ultimately, like, the human brain works on patterns. Like, I think we can all pretty much agree that that's true. I mean, like, it comes down to the idea that you can look at sort of like a cloud and see an animal. It's like it understands these patterns that it knows, and because of that, if you as a filmmaker create these patterns around yourself, then you will become sort of like more memorable, and people will associate you with those things because there's a repeatable pattern. And I think, like we said, you can start that right now, even if you don't have like a large body of work like Spielberg or Kubrick to sort of like point to. You can do it through the design of your like website, even, you know, like if you want to have like a mystery tone, or let's say a comedy tone, like having that in your website and having like a consistent voice as like a comedic creator that like goes from your website, and then once you do have a body of work, it is consistent with that tone that you've set up on your website. That kind of thing is what's going to create like a lasting brand and impression for people. So then they'll know if you're going to pitch a project to like a studio or an executive, they'll know exactly what they're getting into, because like even if they've never seen anything that you've done, because it's so clear in the messaging that you've put out there. So
I mean, you could really look into we could dig deep into this. You can look at the psychological like effects of certain colors and certain color schemes, for your website, and that will convey what your style and what your kind of tone is for your movies. Like, just to step outside the box, like for the longest time growing up, McDonald's was red and yellow, interior and exterior, because red and yellow got people to like move. Like, they wanted people in and out. They didn't want people sitting around. And so the red and yellow were well known to like get people to like disperse, kind of thing. And then once they realized, wait, if we have people stay there, they'll probably go back up and order some more stuff, and we'll make more money off them. And you saw McDonald's switching to like neutral tones and calming tones, like your living room and your dining room tones and all that. So there's a lot of like, we could go deep into this of creating your brand in terms of a website, and the colors you use and the layout you use that can convey the tone and style that you have for your projects.
Yeah, you also bring up an interesting point with McDonald's, really any brand that you're aware of. Like, what's the key aspect of it? Like, you can see that yellow M and just immediately know that it's McDonald's. Like, you don't have to, it doesn't have to say McDonald's. And that's like, through years and years and years of you sort of experiencing that in all sorts of different ways. But imagine the power of that same concept with you as either a filmmaker or a production company, so that your logo, or let's say if you're a single filmmaker, you want to have like, I don't know, some kind of word mark or signature type of thing that you put on your pitch decks, that you put on your website, you put on your business cards and all that kind of stuff. That is, when someone sees that, they know exactly who it is, or what type of project it is,
and what they're probably going to get,
and probably what they're going to get. So it creates this, again, it's about like consistency. It's like comfort. That's the thing about these brands is that's so strong. Like, why do people keep going back to Walmart? it's because there's like a comfort to it, because you know exactly what you're going to get. Whereas you could go to like some sort of mom and pop shop down the street that you've never heard of, but you have no idea what you're getting yourself into. You don't know if they're going to have the things that you want. You don't know if like the customer service is going to be the same or if the prices are going to be more expensive. And so you kind of like build up this reputation that lulls people into this sense of like calm and comfort around your brand so that they keep coming back over and over again.
Yeah. I mean, two examples I can think of, one being spot on to what you're saying when it comes to logo and all that. Put up the Bad Robot logo. You don't even have to put Bad Robot under it. But that boxy robot in the grassy field, you know it's a J.J. Abrams. You know what you're probably going to get, even if he just produced it. And then on the other flip side is like you could have a brand that people don't even realize is your brand until they dive into it. Alex had posted on Fearless Filmmakers, who is your favorite cinematographer. And I thought of all these movies that, oh my God, I like that cinematography, like that cinematography, that's that cinematography. And every time I looked up the cinematographer, it was Deakins. And I'm like, well, there you go. That, like, of course it's Deakins because like that's his style. And I like that style. So without even like putting it out there, like, you know, a Deakins picture.
Yeah.
Just being consistent, people will connect with it without even knowing why they're connecting with it until they do a little more deep dive into it and say, wait a second, I like it because it's Deakins and Deakins has done all these.
Yeah, it's true.
And that's how you ingrain your brand.
Yeah, exactly. And to that point too, I think one thing that Deakins has done extremely well is understanding what exactly it is that people are liking, you know, and repeating it. Because like, especially early on, like you won't know per se, like exactly what it is that people are connecting with, or you may not know, but it's like crucial for you to investigate it and understand why people like whatever it is that you did, whether it's cinematography, writing, directing, so that you can expand upon that and like really dial it in and sort of like double down on those things. Because ultimately at the end of the day, that having like everything that you do successfully become your brand is like the jackpot, like with Deakins. Like he does amazing, like he's probably one of the greatest cinematographers of all time. And I don't know why. I'm not exactly sure someone could like pinpoint it down because like a lot of DPs do similar things. But I think for some reason he has like this, he's built such like a brand about something very specific that we can't necessarily put our fingers on, but he does it so well and he does it over and over and over again.
So here's a question for you. You said like you do things over and over again and then people like it. And then you grab onto that and you do it. So what about, that brings me to my question of like, Fincher. So Fincher, he does something that like, I don't know if people like it. It's almost like he likes it and he doesn't give a damn. He's going to do it in every movie. And that's the digital pass through of things, like through objects, the camera going like, I think of Panic Room where the camera comes through the flashlight and pulls back to reveal them flashing flashlight out like the one hole in their panic room to try and alert the neighbors. He does it in almost every movie he does.
Sure.
And I don't know if I've ever talked to someone who's like, holy shit, I love that. Like him doing that, key, because I don't think it really adds anything to the story. So what do you think about like doing a branding that you just like, just because, hey, you know what? I like it and screw what they think.
Well, here's what I would say to that is if it came down to it and he kept doing that over and over again and everyone hated it, I think that'd be a bad move. But if people like it or don't care, then
don't care.
then it's irrelevant. And I think also what it does in a way is create almost like a mark where you can look at something and say, I wonder if this is Fincher because he did that thing that Fincher does all the time. And so it's again almost like whether you like it or not, or you think it's, or you're just like neutral on it. It's almost like a hook that he can sort of like throw out there that people might gravitate to or not, but he can say that like, oh yeah, that's my thing, and you know this is my movie because I did it.
Yeah. So it might be a calling card that nobody really cares about, and he just likes it, and it doesn't take away from the movie. So he's like, whatever.
Yeah, but again, I think the key is if people hated it, like you got to get rid of it.
Yeah,
you know, it's like
that's true.
It's like
if it doesn't
the
add
last thing you want
story.
is your calling card to be something that people hate. You know, like literally.
Okay. Oh, I hate doing this. So something like giving yourself a role in your movie when everyone can say that you're kind of a bad actor, a la M. Night Shyamalan.
I thought you were going to say Quentin Tarantino. Yes.
I think Quentin's okay. I mean, he was kind of bad in Django Unchained. He's fine, but I mean, like, he's not as bad as M. Night Shyamalan.
That's true. Okay, so yes, that could be a thing that, you know, if you really hate it, obviously it's gonna like deter you from ever going to either of their movies.
But
right?
it won't. Like it won't. Like maybe it's just because we're hardcore movie fans. We're not the casual viewer where they're like, ew, why?
But see, that's the thing is I feel like the casual viewer, in that instance, like I wonder how many casual viewers actually know that that's M. Night Shyamalan, you know? That's true too. He's such like, he goes for the small parts, you know, that you would never notice. Whereas Tarantino, I feel like likes to be sort of at the front a little bit. Like he doesn't star in his own movies, but he likes to be characters that are supposedly supposed to be more memorable. Whereas like M. Night is like, I'm going to be the doctor in this one scene and that's it.
Except he started getting a little cocky, and when he was in Signs about the guy who killed Mel Gibson's wife, and he has that whole scene about I'm going to the water. They don't like the water. I captured one in my pantry. It just made me cringe so bad because it was so bad. It was so flat. Like I'm really sorry about what I did to you and your family.
It's true.
I didn't mean it.
I get it. So, yes, again, I think if people hate it, like, don't do it. But the one thing that I think it does really well for him in particular is as like a viewer, if you're aware of it, and as a filmmaker especially, you get this vibe from him that he's like making, it's fun for him, right? Like he's making these movies that he wants to make, like, and he's doing it his way. And, you know, like he's self-financed, what was it? That
Split.
Signs sequel himself, or not Signs, what am I talking about? The Glass, yes. So it's like he's doing this all on his own. It's him as a filmmaker.
I think he financed Split.
That's right.
And because it did so well, they did Glass, and he didn't have to finance it. But he put like his house up on. He took a mortgage out on his house for Split and all that. Yeah.
And so you get this vibe as like he's this scrappy filmmaker doing what he wants to do, which includes being in your own movie even when you aren't that good, right? So like, it's possible that one could look at that and see it as like a cool thing, even if they acknowledge that he's not like an amazing actor, or probably the person that should have gotten that part if one were to cast it. It again, I think his brand is more like fun mysteries that are kind of spooky with a twist. But he has this kind of like homemade, like I've gone out and just made this kind of vibe, even though it's polished. It's not like a home movie or anything, but like,
I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I just want to warn you, Alex, that at some point our brand is going to become having a homeless person in every one of our movies. And said homeless person will be played by my dad because he has mentioned to me many times he just wants to be in a movie as a homeless person. So prepare yourself for that. Yeah.
I thought you were going to say
work it into.
I thought you were going to say it was going to be you after Jen kicks you out.
Are you kidding me? That would be the happiest homeless person right there.
Yes.
Okay, so now you've created your brand, and maybe you've done a couple projects that are on brand for you. You've done your website, stuff like that. So how do you promote you and your brand? Like, how do you get your brand in front of people who have the power and the money to give you a career? To make you the next David Fincher or Spielberg or something like that.
Yeah, so I think as usual, it's all the normal stuff. Like this is not groundbreaking info, I'm afraid, because literally it comes down to the same way everyone else does. And when you're talking about, if you're going in for pitch meetings and stuff like that, a lot of times you give them what's called like a leave behind or whatever. And it's like whether it's maybe like a postcard flyer type thing, or it's a pitch deck, or it's some type of, maybe a business plan or whatever, like material you've brought with you, like a presentation, maybe, I don't know, something that you're leaving behind that has imagery and it has your name on it and it has all these things. So that's like the perfect opportunity to implement your branding in something that they're going to have and see and potentially keep.
Hopefully for a while.
And then over and over again. So if you keep going back and pitching, it's the same every time. Not the same material, but the same brand and same branding.
Yeah. Same style. Like you could look at a pitch deck of 3 different pitch decks and be like, oh, this all comes from Alex and Trevor.
Exactly. Like, and so then
I get this.
You tie it
because
in.
it says right on the front by Alex and Trevor.
Yeah, that's our brand. It says on the front page in normal font Times New Roman.
Yeah. Even on our business cards on the front, it says by Alex and
by
Trevor.
Alex
and you
and
flip
Trevor
it over
Times New Roman. There's no other info on it.
Comic Sans sometimes if you're feeling crazy.
Yeah, that's for our comedy brand.
Trevor and Al, comedy duo.
But if you are going in for these pitch meetings and you're implementing your branding that way, it would just make sense to have the same branding on your website, have the same branding in the signature of your emails, have the same branding on your business cards, so that when people see it, they just know, or they say, I've seen that before. What's that from? And then they can sort of like put it together. And eventually they won't have to put it together because it'll just be at the top of their mind in that way.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think plus if you're talking about non-narrative, right? Like we're talking about narrative stuff here, like indie films or like trying to pitch your project to studios. But if you're talking about services, you as a production company creating like promo videos or like trying to advertise yourself as a production company, as a service, it's the same exact thing when you go to talk to companies that you're trying to pitch your services to, or if you want to create an ad like on Facebook or a YouTube ad or whatever, it's the same thing where you want to have this consistency of your brand be something that is always ever present in all those promotional aspects that you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. It's a visual medium, and so you have to make yourself visual even when you don't have any like film or promo stuff to show, so that they know, your ads look the same, your everything looks the same. Just keep everything consistent is basically the biggest takeaway. Like, figure out how you want you to come off treat yourself as a product. How do you want to come off to the general public? And keep consistent with that. If you're, emailing people, like you said, the signature at the bottom, maybe an image in the signature, that is huge. There's a lot of things you can do that keep your brand consistent and not even recognizable, but just over
eventually
time recognizable. Yeah, eventually. Yeah,
that's the idea. And so now Trevor has put in our outline.
Alex is
he wants to dive into this hot debate.
Oh man.
About whether or not, if you haven't yet established yourself, whether or not it's a good idea to do free projects to build up your brand and reputation.
This is a debate that could go across every topic you talk about in filmmaking, especially if, like Alex said, when we've talked about a lot, well, how do you build your brand if you don't have any examples to show and all that? And, the question is, do you do some free music videos? Do you do some free promos? Granted, you could do ones that will pay you, but you may not have as much freedom to stay on your brand if you are getting paid. It's back to the idea of Steven Spielberg and Schindler's List. He did that basically for free because it was off brand and they didn't know if it would work. And, you know, in that instance, he got points in the back end and it all worked out because it's Steven Spielberg. But like the idea of doing stuff for free, we asked this on Fearless Filmmakers as well. Like, is that just part of the business when you're starting off, or is it something that's exploitative? You know, how do you feel about doing, like, you know, it doesn't have to be a lot. I'm not saying like spend the next year just doing free projects, like one short, like if you want to be a cinematographer, like one short where you just have complete control over the cinematography and get to do your color scheme, your style, your lighting style and all that. Do you think it's worth it, or do you think it's just a waste of your time?
Are you asking me or are you asking the listeners?
Well, we have no listeners, so I'm asking you.
Okay, good. So this is something that comes up all the time. And there's a fellow, if you're on Facebook, you probably experienced a fellow. I'm not going to call him out because I don't think he wants to be known. Well, he probably does want to be known as the guy who is like an advocate for people's employment rights. But he will appear on Facebook groups, and when people are posting about like shooting, you know, bootstrapping your projects and all that kind of stuff, talking about how one should not go out and look for people to work on projects for free. Because, you know, it's an industry, there's labor laws, all that kind of stuff. So that's kind of like one argument against it. Now,
I guess I don't know who this guy is.
Okay, well, I will introduce you to him, and maybe we should have him on the podcast. We can have like a debate about it.
That'd be hilarious. Okay. Oh, you'll tell me after. Tell me after.
So, but my personal views on it are, when it comes to trying to build up a reel or things like that, you don't necessarily need to do an entire project, right? Like reels are scenes. Reels are like shots. So you can go out and do these things for free with like groups of friends, people you know, that you don't have to like venture out into like go to like Mandy and you know, get and hire people to work for free. You don't have to like go to Actors Access and try to find actors that you don't know to work for free. You can sort of like use your network of people that are happy to do it because it's fun and they want to do it. And you can go about it that way.
Okay.
But I think personally, when it comes to creating a project that you intend to make money with, right? So it's a full project, complete, not just a scene. You intend to make money with it. Either you need to pay people or you need to give them points on the back end. But the thing about the points on the back end aspect, which you could like argue this forever, because like even SAG allows you to do this with their union actors. But like most of the time, it's never going to happen, right? Like there's never going to be points on the back end for these people to really like make it worth their time. So it's almost like a get out of jail free card for a lot of people. So my personal thought is, and this is kind of what Trevor and I do for the most part, like we do everything ourselves until there's a point which we can't do it ourselves, at which point we hire the people. So like Trevor hates doing sound.
I'll do it if I have to.
He'll do it, and he has done it. But if we have the opportunity, we'll get a professional to do it, and we'll pay them.
Yes.
And it's kind of like that's how we work, where oftentimes we're working for free, or if it's a project that we want to see, like we're not going to pay ourselves because ultimately it's just about getting the project made for the purpose of showing what we can do or whatever. So we're happy to do it for free for ourselves. But if we're going to have to hire like a professional, then we're going to pay that person.
Yeah.
Right?
And I guess I mostly think like, I don't think so much of like working for free on a project for like a year, like a feature, which if you're working for free, it's probably going to take a year only because you have to do it around people's schedule, because people actually have to make money doing something else, that kind of stuff. I was thinking more like a short. Like, do you do a short for free to like get a brand out there, something like that.
Well, again, I think if you're going to try to go out and get like a bunch of like real crew members and like people that actually are working in the industry, I think you're going to probably be met with some, with some feistiness because, because you're going to be asking people whose livelihood depends on them making money to work for free on your thing that you believe in and only you. So like, so ultimately at the end of the day, again, I think if you're going to do it, it's got to be with a group of people that you know really well, that you believe in and they believe in you. And so it comes down to you being a more effective networker, aka like going like if you know that you want to like direct something but you don't know how to shoot, you don't know how to light, like go out and network with DPs and befriend them, like become like real, like have real relationships with them where you can sort of like float it by them, and it won't like necessarily be such a I don't know, an assault against their profession.
There's a lot of reasons that you see the same directors working with the same actors and the same DPs and stuff like, and editors, is because they like them and they're friends, and they just like, they have a more than just a professional relationship. They have a friendship, and a lot of times that'll work out. Like an actor will take a little less pay just to get the movie done because they like the director and they like the project. I think it's easier said than done when you're when you're like in your 30s and all that, and you got to pay the bills with your film career. I think working for free and building that up, if you start early, you could probably get away with it more. If you're in film school or just out of film school, you'll get a lot more people who'll be willing to work for free because they have the same idea as you is. They want to use the experience to get them a job or get them a career and stuff like that. But I do think that in this day and age, it's going to be very hard pressed to find some people to do your project for free, or you to do your project for free if you have bills to pay, just to build your brand. And so I think it may help in the sense of like using your friends, but it's a lot easier to do it when you're younger and out of college or still in college.
Yeah. And I will say, if you want to do it, just to give you a little hint here, if you're in LA or New York, or Chicago, or any of those major places, the best thing, I think,
Boise, Idaho.
The best thing you can do is become involved in communities where there's other people who are in the same boat, For example, my wife is an actress, and she, for a long time, was a part of an acting school in LA. And it was filled with people who were just wanting to be actors. Some people wanted to be filmmakers. Some people wanted to be writers. But there's this whole group of people who are all sort of in the same mode, and they're all different ages, right? Like, it's not just people out of college. There's like full-grown adults. There's like, people in their 50s, 60s,
grown-ass
people
adults
in their 80s, like all different ages, right? But they all have the same sort of passion and drive. Like, they're doing it for themselves, and they are happy. They're like are eager to partner with people. And in that way, I like through my wife, I didn't even attend this school, but like through her, there were many people who, Trevor and I have both worked with, on their projects. They worked on our projects. And it's just sort of like this community of people who want the same things, and you're able to sort of work together for those goals.
Yeah. And that's one way you can get away to build your brand without spending a lot of money if you're just starting out to build your brand. If that's something you realize you needed to do and haven't done it yet. So there are some ways you could do it cheaply, but at the same time, people got to get paid.
Yeah. And now I think the one last thing that we should maybe just touch on, because we kind of talked about it, styling. I don't know, your social profiles and your website, and creating like word marks and logos and like all these things. How is one going to do that if one is not a designer, right? Like how can one like get a logo or like a signature or something memorable that they can put on their business cards and all that kind of stuff when they themselves aren't able to do it? Maybe you don't have like Illustrator or Photoshop skills, or maybe you don't know how to like create a website and all that kind of stuff. So how can you do it? I think one good, there's so many different like avenues out there for you to go. There's 99 Designs, I think, is one of them. Yeah, where you can sort of like give a prompt for people, tell them what you want. Our friend Logan actually did that for his production company, and was sent like dozens of designs by different designers. Then you choose the one that essentially is like the winner, and then that person gets paid for it. There's also things like Fiverr, which you can have varied results with, so be careful with that one. There's also things
definitely
like,
look at the person's past work. On Fiverr
and make sure that it's real. There's also things like Upwork, which I think still exists, or like Elance.
Think so.
Maybe they combine. I don't even know. But basically, it's sort of like hiring freelancers, remote digital freelancers. Okay. Yep. So you can like search for designers, both web designers, logo designers, like all different kinds, and basically say like, here's my budget, and you put up like a job and say like, okay, I have, I don't know, like $1,000 total that I'm going to spend. I need a website, I need a logo, I need all these things or whatever. And you'll have certain people pitch for the job and give you their proposed budget if it doesn't align up with what you have proposed. So, there's different options out there for that type of stuff. You don't have to be like a master designer to start building a brand. But I do think it's important for your brand to be artfully put together. Like you don't want your entire brand to be based on some type of like I don't know, poor quality image or something that you've kind of like scraped together, even though you don't have the skills as a designer.
Well, we talked about that in episode I think it was at 54 about things that we spot that tells us that it sends off the signals that it's a cheaply made film or short and all that, and that's the title. The company card is just really poorly put together. So it just expands on that. Like if the first thing people see is something that's like remedially done in MS Paint or something like that, they're gonna get turned off. It's like the first 10 pages of a script. If something doesn't happen, then people are gonna be like, whatever. It's the same with your brand when it comes to logo and website and stuff like that. If they go onto it and see something that's poorly put together, they're like, well, this person can't. I don't want to work with this person, or I don't want to use this person because this is their digital face that they're putting out.
Exactly. It represents you as a whole. And as much as it can work for you, it can equally work against you if you have like a poorly constructed brand and branding options. So I think it's important, put the time into it, put the money into it if you have to. And get it done right.
Shouldn't be that expensive.
Shouldn't be that expensive. And get it done right the first time, so you don't have to try to scrub the internet of your poor branding choices.
Exactly. All right, I think that's actually going to do it for this episode. What do you think?
I think that's it.
All right, so thank you so much for joining us. You can get the show notes for this episode by visiting nobudgetfilmmaking.com.
And don't forget to hop on over to iTunes and subscribe to our podcast. And while you're there, give us a 5-star rating if you feel so inclined.
If you have any filmmaking questions, ask away in the comments section and we will try to answer them.
Also, if you're in the giving mood, head on over to nobudgetfilmmaking.com/beer and buy us a beer, and we'll give you a shout out in the next episode. Like Brandon Hammond.
Yes. Thank you again, Brandon. Also, don't forget to head over to fearlessfilmmakers.com to join our growing community of filmmakers, and we will see you guys next time.
Later.